how do you pray the Psalms? And why should you pray the Psalms? Let's talk about both of those questions. If you're like me, somebody's come up to you, this happened to me when I was a pretty young man, and said, you should start praying the Psalms. And I thought, well, that sounds like a great idea, but how do you do that? I mean, how do you pray the Psalms? So let me go through just a few steps with you that I myself have learned and implemented over the years, and hopefully this will be helpful to you as well. So, how do you pray the Psalms? Well, first of all, you choose a translation and you stick with that translation basically the rest of your life, at least with regard to the Psalms. Now, I know sticking with something the rest of your life is a lot to ask, but think about it this way. If you're going to memorize the Psalms, which is the ultimate goal, writing these words on your heart, knowing them by heart, the only way you're going to do that is by sticking with the same translation. Now, when I was in my 20s, I chose the New American Standard. There's any number of translations out there that you might choose, but whatever you choose, stick with it. Do not alter that translation of the Psalms, because if you keep switching from ESV to NIV to New American Standard to whatever else, you're never going to memorize the Psalms. So choose a translation, at least for the Psalms, and never depart from it. And in that way, over time, you're going to begin to write these words on your heart. Secondly, if you do a Google search for praying through the Psalms in 1 month or in 30 days, a chart is going to come up in your results. It's from the Book of Common Prayer. And what it does is it divides 150 Psalms into the 30 or 31 days of the month. So many in the morning, so many in the evening. Now, what I do is I pray them all in one sitting, usually in the morning. It only takes about 15 minutes max. There's usually anywhere from 5 to 8 Psalms prayed every single day. If you prefer to divide them out morning and evening, fine. Prefer to do them all in the evening, fine. Carve out 15 minutes per day. That's all it is. And pray through these Psalms in that translation which you have chosen. And by doing so, you're going to pray through every single Psalm 12 times a year. You're going to cover all 150 once per month. Using the same translation, over and over, you're going to hear these same words. And of course, what's going to happen is maybe not the first or second or even the third year, but over time, this long obedience in the same direction, over time, these words are going to become simply part of you, part of your repertoire of prayer, and you're going to be able to pray the Psalms in any and every circumstance. You're going to incorporate them into your extemporaneous prayers. You're going to be able to pray them in whatever situation that you find yourself in life, because they are part of you. You have eaten these words, as it were, digested them, and made them part of who you are. And you do this by disciplined repetition, monthly, daily prayer, making them part of you. And then the third part of this is you simply pray the words. So you're not adding your own petitions to these. You're not kind of paraphrasing as you go along. You are praying word for word exactly what you read in the Bible. So say it's the first day of the month, and so you open up to Psalm 1. And so you're going to begin praying, how blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, or stand in the path of sinners, or sit in the seat of scoffers, but his delight is in the law of the Lord. In his law he meditates day and night, so on and so forth. Go on to Psalm 2. Go on to Psalm 3. You're praying the Psalms word for word. Now, maybe you're having a bad day. Maybe you're sad, and it's a joyful psalm. Pray the joyful psalm word for word. Maybe you're having a great day, and you're happy, but the psalm is sad. Doesn't matter. Pray the sad psalm word for word. What you're doing is really engaging in spiritual preparedness, because there will come a day when you need the words of that sad psalm, and you're going to know them. There will come a day when you need the words of that joyful psalm, and you'll have them. There will come a day when you need the words of whatever psalm it is, and even though many of the days you prayed it, you weren't kind of in the mood of that psalm, nevertheless, that psalm has its way with you. It becomes part of you. And so it will be ready for you when you need this prayer. So choose a translation. Stick with it. Do not change. Then find that chart and begin to pray at least every month. At least every month. You can do this even over a course of a week if you wish, but at least every month, pray through the entire book of Psalms. And pray them word for word. So that's the 3 steps toward how you pray the Psalms. Why would you want to do so? Well, think of it this way. None of us, on the day that we were born, began uttering full sentences and paragraphs. We had the capacity to learn language, but we didn't have that language. How did we learn whatever our native language might be? Well, we echoed back what our, especially parents and other adults, said to us. Sometimes that was just a simple word. We began by saying, mama and dada, just simple words. But then pretty soon we're stringing together short sentences and then whole paragraphs. And pretty soon we're fluent in our mother language. And we learn that, we acquired that by echoing back what others who already knew the language spoke to us. It's kind of like that with the language of prayer. And the book of Psalms is the schoolhouse of the language of prayer, because here God our Father speaks to us. And then we begin to echo back to him with these same words in prayer. That's what makes the Psalms unique. They're God's words to us that become our words back to God. We are learning the language of prayer because none of us were born with the ability, the aptitude, the language of prayer. It is a gift of God to us. The disciples asked Jesus to teach them how to pray. Paul says we don't know what to pray for as we ought. So what happens? We are taught how to pray. And one of the ways in which we are taught how to pray is through the book of Psalms. And so the Psalms then become God's words to us that are then our words back to God. We learn the language of prayer, and then we can incorporate this language of prayer into our other prayers. We can turn the language of the Psalms into our own petitions. We can add our other petitions. Once we have this foundation upon which to build, then the Psalms are going to inform all manner of prayers which we pray. Not to mention, of course, just teaching us about God, about prayer and praise and lament and all of these other parts of the life of a Christian. And the Psalms are also going to be there for us then when we don't know how to pray, especially when we just simply can't come up with the words. Now, I speak from very personal experience here. When I lost my son, Luke, I wanted to pray, but it's like I didn't have the language. At best, I could get out short prayers like, Lord, have mercy. But I turned to the Psalms, and the Psalms were able to give me the language I needed in order to cry out to God in that time of great grief. Why? Where are you? What's going on? The Psalms gave me the ability to speak to God from that very deep and dark place in which I found myself. And they do the same thing, whether we're in a joyful place or whether we're in a low place. Wherever we're at on the broad emotional spectrum, today, tomorrow, yesterday, the Psalms are going to be there because they address the full range of human emotions. They address the full range of human experiences. Whatever you're going through in life, be it good, bad, or in between, the Psalms speak to that and allow you then to take what you're going through and to turn that as a prayer back to our Heavenly Father. So that's how you pray the Psalms. Choose a translation, follow that chart, pray the Psalms word for word, and do this. Make this your life's endeavor. 15 minutes a day. You'll be amazed at what happens over time. And then know that as you're doing this, God is teaching you how to pray. He's teaching you how to converse with him. He's speaking to any and every circumstance in which you find yourself. There will never come a time when you regret spending time in the Psalms, because the Psalms are God's treasure to us that become then our sacrifice of praise, our sacrifice of lament, our sacrifice of petition back to him. Hope you found that helpful. Peace to you all.